7 days after Galwan bloodshed, Chinese return to Flashpoint. Clearest satellite images, most detailed view of face-off sight. Open Chinese deceit fully visible. India visor armed and fully ready. Galwan Flashpoint 2.0 Brewing. Top focus on India first.
Do the Chinese really want to disengage, or is this just deception and more deception? I'm Gaurav Sawant. That's our top focus story. The Chief of the Army Staff, General Manoj Mukund Naravne, he's in Leh. He's interacted with soldiers on ground. He's pinned commendation badges on their chest. The soldiers are extremely gung-ho. They are confident that the Chinese were beaten back at Galwan, and wherever the Chinese now try to probe, whether it's Depsang up north or Demchok in the south, the Chinese see the Indian wall or the wall of the Indian soldier. Much more about that on the broadcast, but as always, our top focus story on the broadcast is what's happening in the Depsang plains near Daulat Beg Oldie. So far, we knew about what's happening at the Galwan Valley, and this is where India was able to push back the Chinese intruders, the transgressors from the line of actual control. We also know about Pangong Tso, where the Chinese are occupying land between finger 8 and finger 4, which is our territory. Our perception of the LAC is finger 8. But now, let's tell you about Depsang, where the Chinese have suddenly increased their mobilization. Of course, their troops are on their side of the line of actual control, but there is an increased activity that's noticed. The satellites have caught it, the unmanned aerial vehicles have caught it. India, according to top sources in the army, is well prepared and well deployed. India Today's Shiv Arur and I bring you our top story tonight.
We broke the news about the June 15 bloodshed in Galwan. We told you the true story of what really happened. We exposed China's relentless and dangerous mobilization in Pangong Tso. And now, the next big step in China's border plan. There is a fresh evidence that China may be trying to open a fresh front in northern Ladakh. Top sources tell India Today that China has begun mobilizing in the Depsang and DBO sectors from a base just over 20 kilometers away from Indian positions. India Today has accessed these exclusive images which unmasks the Chinese intentions. Camps and vehicles were spotted near the Chinese base in June. The Chinese base was built before 2016, but the new camps and vehicle tracks in the region are clearly visible in these recent satellite images.
Chinese have come with a particular aim, and this aim was decided at the highest level, and it is being executed by Western Theatre Commander Zhao Zongqi and Major General Liu Lin. So let's not get surprised that what is happening, because there is a design, and that design is exactly unfolding as per the Chinese plan.
The Depsang Plains were the site of a long and deep Chinese intrusion in 2013. And expecting trouble here, the Indian Army has already mobilized in a big way from May itself. If the Chinese attempt hostile actions here, they will meet exponentially stiffer resistance than in 2013. Taking no chances India is keeping its eyes and ears close on ground and it's powder dry. Leading from the front, Army Chief General M.M. Narwane, who is in Ladakh, met soldiers at the front line along the LAC. The Army Chief commended the troops who took part in face-offs with the Chinese soldiers in Ladakh for their high morale, exhorting them to continue with the same zeal and enthusiasm.
The Army Chief's big shabash to troops on ground is a major morale booster to soldiers deployed along the India-China line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. But there remains a cause for grave concern, and that is increased Chinese activity in the Depsang plains. So it's not just Galwan or Pangong Tso. Depsang could well be a flashpoint. But here, the Indian army is already deployed in large numbers to ensure that there is no Chinese army misadventure. With Shivarur in Delhi and with cameraman Kripal Singh in Leh, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. So India Today's editor defense Abhishek Bhalla now joins me for more. We are telling you what's happening at Depsang. We'll also tell you about Galwan. Now Galwan is the area which saw that bloody battle between the Indian troops and the Chinese troops, and it was a medieval battle. While both sides were armed, they used clubs and they used stones at each other. Now in that area, are the Chinese again trying to build up? Take a look at this satellite imagery, because this is a cause for grave concern, because Chinese say that they are keen on disengagement, but is that deception? Are they building up once again?
One week after they defended Indian territory with their lives, 1 week after they made the supreme sacrifice, and on the very day the two sides agreed to disengage in the Galwan Valley, this is what the Chinese have done at the site where the June 15th clash began. Satellite images by Maxar from June the 22nd clearly show the Chinese have returned to the contentious area that sparked the bloodshed a week earlier. Let's first show you the sequence. This was the Chinese observation post spotted in May, roughly 20 meters inside on the Indian side. A day after the Galwan bloodshed, this is what was left of the camp. Clear signs of debris. The result of Indian offensive actions on the Chinese post, which had clearly violated the LAC and pledges in talks. Put the images together and it's clear the camp was destroyed and burnt. But now, precisely a week after the bloodshed, this is what satellites see at Patrol Point 14. 4 pieces of tentage, defensive walls, and even an infantry gun position. Considering it would have taken time to build these structures, it appears clear that the Chinese have been talking disengagement while doing precisely the opposite. Zooming out even further, the Chinese mobilization at Galwan becomes even clearer, with military vehicles, troops, and earth-moving equipment clearly seen literally at the line of actual control. The Indian side has not been taking any chances either and has been building up its own forces. And once again, while the satellites were doing their work on the 22nd of June, it was India Today that reported the reality to you first.
On 22nd June, we reported how more than 1,000 men from both the sides stood extremely close to the line of actual control on the either side, separated only by a few meters. This happened days after the bloodshed in Galwan. And now, latest satellite images and inputs from the ground confirm what we reported. The question is, how did the Chinese continue the build-up when the talks between the two armies were going on?
It's important to note that this was the situation on the day the Corps Commander level meeting was on. All eyes will now be on whether a pledge to disengage will follow through. With Ankit Kumar and Abhishek Bhalla in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So, do Chinese want to disengage, or is this deception? And is there something more in store? Are the Chinese planning something more? I want to bring in editor defense Abhishek Bhalla for more on the story. So Abhishek, when the two generals met, the aim was disengage, verify and disengage. Where is that verification process? What are the modalities and what are we seeing on ground?
Gaurav, on the day the two generals met and, had that marathon meet, that's exactly the time when the Chinese were trying to build up exactly at the point where that ugly clash took place on June 15th. Since then, obviously, things are not normal. They're far from being normal, in fact. But as far as the modalities are concerned, what we've been told is that it's going to be done in a staggered manner, in a phased way, and it might still take 2 to 3 months. But the problem at the ground remains, Gaurav, that the Chinese are making forays into different areas like Depsang, as one of our reports has just shown. And, they are also building up at that point in Galwan where the face-off happened and the two armies lost their brave men. Indian Army lost 20 people and the Chinese have also lost a lot of people, but they did not give any confirmation as to what the number was. Once again, the Chinese seem to be, building up at that very location. However, it doesn't mean that the Indian Army has taken a step backwards. The Indian Army remains there. There's a show of strength and there's a mirror deployment on the Indian side, making sure that there is enough deterrent on the ground for the Chinese.
In fact, Abhishek,
in case they want to engage in any other aggression.
Absolutely. I've heard that we are there in bigger numbers, Abhishek. I've been told we are there in bigger numbers. We are on the higher ground. And should the Chinese try something, they had about 40 plus casualties the first time. God forbid, should they try another misadventure, they wouldn't be very happy about it the second time either. But Abhishek, are these Chinese psychological operations? Are these probe operations? Because in conversations, they seem to be very sincere. Not that Chinese sincerity can be taken seriously after what happened at Galwan. They seem to be sincere about disengaging. Take us through that entire canvas from Depsang in the north to Demchok in the south of Ladakh. Do they genuinely want to disengage and start moving back? How do we verify that they want to move back and after moving back, they don't quickly come back once again?
Gaurav, the candid response from people in the know-how is that, this disengagement that the Chinese are talking about has to be taken with a pinch of salt because, there has been a build-up all across eastern Ladakh. We've always been talking about it, that it's not limited to 3 or 4 spots. Now it's out in the open. And even though, the Chinese have said, and there was a statement by the Indian Army as well, that there's mutual agreement to disengagement. But the fact remains that this disengagement has to translate to de-induction. That's most important. No signs of it as of now. And don't forget, Gaurav, that on the 6th June meeting, a similar roadmap was planned that the two armies will pull back. But that never happened and it did not transpire on the ground. And it led to that ugly clash on June 15th. That was a big blow to all the discussions that were happening.
Frankly, it was also an eye-opener for China. That we've unfortunately lost 20 Braves, but a real eye-opener for China that they're not getting a walkover anywhere. 830 odd kilometers of line of actual control in Ladakh, and the Chinese are getting no walkover in this area. Abhishek, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. We will continue to report from ground zero, but for the moment, I want to shift focus and take you to Moscow. There was a very impressive Victory Day parade. 75 years of Russia's victory, or then Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh was there. An Indian Armed Forces contingent, 75 members of the Sikh Light Infantry in the Indian Army, the Navy and the Air Force, they marched past. But what is extremely interesting, apart from the pomp and show and the visuals, India has a big list of weapons that we want to buy from Russia. The Russians have assured us of timely delivery. Geeta Mohan with this report.
Для встречи слева! Накра!
The Red Square in Moscow resounded once again to the sound of marching boots, as some 14,000 Russian and foreign troops took part in the 75th Victory Day parade. The parade is held every year to commemorate the defeat of Nazi Germany. The then Soviet Union had paid the biggest price in human lives to bring about this defeat. An estimated 26 million people of USSR died in the 4 years that the Soviet Union fought Hitler's forces.
Это долг нашей совести и нашей ответственности перед настоящим и будущим. Слава поколению, победившему нацизм!
At 1 minute past 11 p.m. on 8th of May 1945 in Berlin, Nazi Germany ended all its military operations, bringing to an end the war in the western sector. But it was already 1 minute past midnight in Moscow. So from 1946 onwards, while Western Europe chose to mark 8th of May Victory Day, USSR chose to do it on 9th of May. But Joseph Stalin, as Premier of the Soviet Union, wanted a grand celebration in 1945 itself. And he picked 26th of June to hold the first Victory Day parade in Moscow. From 1946, the parade was held annually on 9th of May. 75 years later, Vladimir Putin, as the President of Russia, picked 26th of June to hold the 75th Victory Day parade in Moscow. This after the 9th May celebrations got delayed because of the coronavirus outbreak. 80 World War II veterans of the Soviet Army and many leaders from the republics that had been part of the Soviet Union were in the audience, as was the Defence Minister of India, Rajnath Singh. An Indian Tri-Services marching contingent took part in the parade. One of the 12 foreign army contingents on Red Square. The PLA contingent from China was noticeably larger than the one from India. A notable feature of this huge celebrations in Corona times was the absence of the face mask. Russian authorities said that all precautions had been taken to keep the event safe, but world leaders like Xi Jinping of China and Emmanuel Macron of France had cancelled their visits because of the pandemic. At the parade, after the marching was over and the music bands had played, there came the mechanized might of Russia. As more than 200 military vehicles and war machines thundered by. The grand parade ended with everyone looking skywards at a flypast performed by 75 aircraft of the Russian Air Force.
And India is looking at some of the Russian air power from Su-30 MKIs with the India-Russia joint collaboration, the BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles to MiG-29 airframes, the MiG-29 air superiority fighters, again with advanced avionics and beyond visual range missiles. Of course, that apart, it's the 39,000 crore rupee S-400 anti-missile deal that India is very keenly looking at. The Russians have assured us that delivery would be on time. But now I want to shift focus to a person that is being seen, who's being seen as the villain of Galwan. General Zhao, the Western Theatre Commander of China. Now, many say that after he lost face in Doklam, he actually swore that he will avenge the embarrassment at Doklam. Is this that revenge?
This is General Zhao Zongqi, commander of China's most crucial Western Theatre Command. This fiercely ambitious general has headed the command since 2016 and has served in Tibet for more than 2 decades. He's being seen as the architect of the current India-China standoff at the line of actual control from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh through Sikkim.
General Zhao is very clearly an ambitious man. He was handpicked and he was the favorite of Xi Jinping, who was also the head of the Central Military Commission. So very fact that he chose him for this particular assignment, and that from 2016 we've been seeing certain activities which have been unprovoked.
General Zhao, a veteran of the Vietnam War of 1979, is seen as an expert in ambush warfare. The ambush of the soldiers of the 16th Battalion of the Bihar Regiment at Galwan bears his signature.
I do have a feeling that this was his last chance of General Zhao to prove his worth and probably come up with the good books in trying to secure the western highway that they have, the 219. That's the only highway that connects western Tibet to Xinjiang province.
General Zhao is also seen as the architect of the Chinese incursions at Doklam in 2017. He had hoped to impress Chinese President Xi Jinping and be elevated to the all-powerful Chinese military decision-making body, the Central Military Commission. However, he read India's response in Doklam incorrectly, and after a 73-day standoff, China had to withdraw. General Zhao was overlooked, and the current standoff at Ladakh appears to be his desperate attempt to redeem his honor in Xi Jinping's eyes. General Zhao's ambition appears to be pushing two Asian giants towards conflict.
The question remains, these incursions in Ladakh, are these General Zhao's brainchild, or do they have clearance from the Chinese President Xi Jinping? With cameraman Kripal Singh in Ladakh, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. Let me now shift focus. India's response isn't just restricted to having its military all along the line of actual control. The people of India, they've risen against Chinese products. They say we will not buy Chinese products anymore. The government is now contemplating a 20% basic custom duty on solar modules from China, cells from China, inverters from China. Of course, this is from the month of August in an attempt to discourage imports from China. Additionally, Revenue Department has notified anti-dumping duty on flat-rolled steel products, plated or coated with alloys of aluminium and zinc, imported from China, Korea and Vietnam. Now, this dumping of exports refers by a country or a firm at prices lower than the price of that product in domestic markets. So this is what India intends to do, is to ensure that our wallet power also shows. I quickly now want to cut across to India Today's Managing Editor Business, Rajiv Dubey, who joins us for more on the story. So Rajiv, take us through the steps that the people of India and the government of India are taking or intend to take, and its likely impact on exports from China.
Yes, so this seems like almost a three-pronged attack on China and Chinese businesses. The first one is, of course, individuals. Individuals are smashing Chinese products, boycotting Chinese products, and some of them are even putting up those videos on social media. The second is small businesses and traders. The Confederation of All India Traders, the biggest trading organization in the country, has decided to reduce imports from China by 1 lakh crore. It has identified some 3,000 odd items, and it has even written to India's top 50 business houses to not use Chinese products. So they have called for boycott China. And the third is tightening of the screws by the government of India. So we know that solar import is going to be now attracting 20% import duty from August onwards. And steel imports from China, flat-rolled steel imports, is again going to be, there's an anti-dumping duty being imposed on it for 5 years. And finally, there is going to be a phased-wise, rollout of import duties, higher import duties on products that are imported from China, except for pharmaceutical products. And these items, about 380 of them, are being identified, and these are going to be seeing import duties from the government of India. So this is what it seems like from individuals, businesses and the government, the attack on China and Chinese products.
Okay. So let's see what's the short-term, medium-term and long-term impact of this. Rajiv, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. Many say this will not be successful. Many say this will hurt India and Indians even more. But remember, there's nothing more important than your self-respect. Remember Maharana Pratap? Maharana Pratap lived in jungles, but he continued to fight the Mughal Empire. This is what India is all about. Self-respect first. That is all I have for you on this special broadcast from an altitude of 11,500 feet in Leh. Many thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.